way I want it, that's the way you hear it. It's an all-new Kirblog. Dan the Lone Wolf, he's asking me, so I've been listening to your Kirblogs for a little while, and I have a suggestion for a future Kirblog. Where should I put my money? At the moment, I'm holding tight. Baby, hold tight. I'm also holding a job in school, and things are going pretty smoothly, except for one thing. I don't know what to invest in if I want to get into voice acting and animation. Should I buy a drawing tablet? If so, what kind? I know I'm going to need a mic, but which one? I'm sure others want to know. This is a great question. I wanted to do a little bit more of an easy, lighthearted topic this weekend since I've been doing relatively serious ones. And even though this one is seat and advice, sorry, I'm a little burpy, I just had pizza. This one's a little, it's advice based, but it's a little more on the simple side. It's not so deep and philosophical. The one sort of, deeper thing I'll kind of preface it with, and more so that I guess this is kind of a preview for like other Kirblog topics where I've gone more in depth with this, but figuring out exactly what it is that you want to do is very important ahead of time before you invest in anything, because it is incredibly important to have the right equipment that you need to focus on training yourself in the career that you want to get yourself into. However, different aspects of those things are going to mean you'll be needing different things. And voiceover and art of any kind, whether it's animation or otherwise, require a lot of vastly different things. Now, granted, I dabble in a little bit of both. So I'll be kind of going off of my own perspective. But in fact, actually, I'll even start with the voiceover stuff first, because while I work professionally in voiceover, it's not my main thing. So my technology is a little bit more limited in terms of what I invested into. In fact, you'll actually even see, by the fact that I haven't used some of it. The microphone that I've been using for recording a lot of stuff since I think even like the Parody Rangers days, like around when we did the movie maybe, is the Samson C01U microphone. It's a USB mic, so it just plugs straight into your computer and you can just use it, and it works with a program like Audacity, or anything else that you might have. GarageBand, I think, is the Mac equivalent of that. But I think Audacity also might work on PC as well. Either way. It's relatively inexpensive. I think it's like a couple $100. Good quality microphone. On another kind of, this is a little bit of a separate topic in and of itself, but as you guys have probably noticed ever since I moved to California and have been doing these, I have a lot more echo because, I'm living in a loft, as opposed to my room, which, back when I was doing them in New York, so that's very important. And on that kind of note, a lot of friends that I have who are focusing primarily on voiceover, they have, invested a lot more into proper recording equipment. In fact, a lot of my friends who are like really taking it seriously have even spent the money on getting themselves a whisper room, which is like basically it's like I don't want to say it's a portable, like audio recording booth or whatever, but it's something that can fit into your house more or less. It doesn't make it. It's no substitute for a real studio, but it's like good enough that it's like it works as a booth. Like especially if you want like really good quality, audition sound for if you're submitting stuff from home. Thankfully, because I'm also with an agency, I can go to my agency's office and do auditions from there, which I much prefer to do. Because I get, direction from the people that are working there, and they can, give me, some feedback on stuff. But I still do a lot of auditions from home, and I have booked stuff from home on this microphone. That said, for Christmas, I was given a better microphone, and I don't have, because I'm just lazy, and it's been, 7 months since I got this fucking thing for Christmas, so I'm inept, obviously. I got I have to pull it up real quick. An Audio-Technica 2035 microphone. There we go. I'll just magically ninja that in there for you. But yeah, preamp is necessary for a non-USB microphone if you want something that's better quality than just, something that like the Samson C01U that I'm using for this. But yeah, that's for like if you're really serious about focusing mainly on voiceover, then it is very important, especially because just how the industry has changed with how much stuff is done from home. mostly with auditions. But I mean, even with a lot of like what I've done lately, like in terms of if I ever need to record something high quality for like a project of my own or something like that, then I'll usually like just hit up like Ben Discan or Xander Mobus or Ed Bosco and be like, hey, can I come over and borrow your recording equipment? And like I'll do it there, and then I'll just save it on a flash drive and go home and edit it later or whatever I need to do. But that aside, that's what I have for being able to do these. And previously, for when I was doing, voice recording for my own stuff, I would do it that way as well. It was just easier. But and there's other ways. In fact, I'll even give a plug to Mick Lauer, Rice Pirate from Newgrounds, did a great video about how to treat your space with with having good recording quality, even with a not super expensive microphone. So that side, that's as much as I'll really say for the voice recording stuff. There's better people who are more qualified on that. Not that I'm more qualified on the art side, but just I've made that journey in terms of like, okay, what do I really need? And actually, I might even at some point do a Kirblog topic about my technical mishaps, because I think somebody asked a question about something regarding that, like, oh, what if something breaks down? What do you do? But basically, what I was using for the longest time, in terms of like the technical side of things, was I had this, it was like a Dell PC laptop that Zach Bellissimo, who, by the way, please donate to Long Gone Gulch, my good friend who worked on the Nintendo collabs, and he was in Parody Rangers and stuff. He's been a storyboard artist on Teen Titans Go and a bunch of stuff. He had this laptop that I saw in high school, and it was like, I want that. And it was a PC laptop where the screen itself was the tablet. And it came with its own pen and everything. And I was using that type of machine for making everything from the second half of Parody Rangers 3 all the way up until, up until the last 3 episodes of Tone. So that would have been up to episode 13. And that was like 8 years, I think. I used that same machine. That was from 2007, I think, to 2014, I believe, if I'm getting my years right. But anyway, so it's about 7 8 years. Either way, that's what I was using. In terms of programs, what I have continued to use all this time is Adobe Flash, and I was using Fireworks for a little while in the really early days, and then I realized I didn't need it anymore because that was back when I did pixel stuff, and then I was using vectors after that. Photoshop and Flash are the 2 main programs that I use for anything art related. Now, those are important to take into consideration because legally getting a copy of those programs costs a pretty fair amount of money. I've been told that the Adobe, I just have the individual ones that I needed, but I've been told that Adobe Suite is a better deal to go with, but it's also better to wait until it's on sale. I wouldn't know the details of that, unfortunately, because I've just been using Flash and Photoshop individually. In fact, actually, I won't even be afraid to admit, I've used like antiquated versions of programs for a very long time. Currently, I have Adobe Flash CS6, which is one of the not the latest version because I don't have Adobe Animate or whatever. I hear it's super buggy, so I'm just sticking. But that's what I mean is I'm sticking with CS6, which is now technically an outdated version, but it's the one that is the least buggy and has been the most functional and helpful and everything. So that's what I've been using. I'm starting to sound like fucking Steve-O. Hey, what's going on, guys? But the programs that you need to do what it is that you want to do are very important. I would also say, objectively, if you want to work in the industry, it's actually really good to get programs also like Toon Boom, which is now basically the standard for animation. For jobs that are done that are actually animation jobs that are done here and not overseas. Toon Boom seems to be the standard. Flash is very, very seldom used by companies anymore. That actually, speaking of Teen Titans Go earlier, I think that's one of the few shows that does still use Flash. And I think some of the stuff at like Titmouse maybe does. And also Storyboard Pro, which is a program I've learned about only just in the last couple years, and it's extremely important. And if I'm lucky enough to get a job, at a studio somewhere out here, then I'm going to have to learn that program real fast because it's very important. Otherwise, I just kind of do whatever I need to do in Photoshop. And Photoshop also can suffice for storyboard jobs if you're interested in doing that stuff too. Now, in terms of going back to the hardware for a second, what I would say, if you're interested in like, focusing on any type of like, visual art, whether it's animation or comics or illustration or whatever, I would say by and large, one of, if not maybe even the most important thing that you can get regardless of what programs you're using. Because it's funny, this Kirblog is kind of like the most long-winded answer to what program do you use, which I'm very happy to say I don't often get that question anymore. I think because most people just know by now. But anyway, I would suggest that getting a Cintiq tablet screen is extremely important. Now, they're pretty expensive, and there are varying sizes. The most common one that I see people get is the 22-inch. I got the 24 HD Cintiq, and those of you who have been following my Kirblogs for a while probably even know the story of when I got it. It was right as I was about to go into working on the last 3 episodes of Tome. I was going home for the holidays, or actually I forget if it was for the holidays or if maybe it was when I was going to record for Y2K. But either way, my laptop broke down. It was 3 of them I had gone through, and I was like, fuck it, I'm fed up with this. So I finally just said, all right, I'm going to get a Cintiq because I've been meaning to for a while. And thankfully, I had just gotten my paycheck in from working on Tales of Zestiria at the time, and that was able to more than cover getting it. So, I think that the 22 HD was, I think it was like $2,000. No, you know what? No. I think it was like 1,000, and then building the new computer that I was going to have it be attached to, I think was another 1,000. So I think it was at least $2,000, and I was very thankful that I had Joshua Tomar to help me out with that. I'll probably record like my technical mishap Kirblog after this, and maybe I'll do it right after I'm done recording this. But either way. A Cintiq tablet is extremely important because it is, again, it's the standard. It's what most animation studios are using, and even independent artists, most who are serious about doing this stuff, they are typically having a Cintiq. Now there are other tablet devices. There are pads, where you're drawing on the pad and it shows up on screen. I have tried those, and from my personal experience, I have no fucking idea how anybody can use those. In fact, if anybody listening to this, if you're an artist and you can use pad tablets without screen tablets like a Cintiq, my God, I'm not patronizing you when I say this. Like, you're amazing, because I have no clue how to do that right. It's like my brain can't handle it, and I'm so spoiled by just drawing directly on a screen that I just would never be able to go to something like that. I would not be able to hack it, basically. But either way, a Cintiq I think is the smartest thing to go with. Now here's the thing too. I've listed a bunch of suggestions. Now regardless of whatever you're going into, now all this stuff costs a pretty fair amount of money. And now if you're starting out, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you probably don't have a lot of money to be spending on stuff like this in the first place. But if you really are taking it seriously, then it's good to, save up as much as possible and use any and all opportunity to work towards getting the equipment that you need, which is the reason why I also say you should really figure out exactly what it is that you want to do so that you're not wasting money on, a bunch of things and then realize, oh, voiceover's not for me, or, oh, animation's not for me, etc. Oh, but I just bought this expensive microphone and this expensive, recording facility booth, or this program that I'm not actually going to be using because now I've decided, oh, this isn't for me and I'm not going to get into it. So definitely, I would also say, if you can, try these things out. Like if they have them at your school, or if you have a friend that has them and they want to, give you a little bit of a test on them so you can, see how it feels. Because it's also important to see what it is that you like. If you're more of a Flash person like me and you don't want to bother with Toon Boom, even though I would still suggest, I'm saying you would probably be better off than me if you had Toon Boom and studied that instead. Or if you're like, if you're doing 3D animation like Maya and Blender, stuff like that. Definitely get a feel for what it is that you are going to be the most comfortable with ahead of time before you drop the money on it, because that's extremely important too. You don't want to be, shelling out hundreds and hundreds of dollars for stuff that you may not end up actually using for anything if you decide, this, medium isn't for me and I'm going to go into something else. What I have often done, and I very much have my family to thank for this, but I've tried to not abuse this thing, because it has to do with the gift of with the time of giving and the gift of giving, giving gifts. Good job, Chris. I have asked for a lot of this stuff for Christmas presents for people. In fact, what I've done, I think since maybe my third year of high school, is pretty much almost every Christmas. There's been a couple where I'll get this video game or whatever, if I don't really need anything, but by and large, what I've been doing for the past 8 to 10 Christmases or so is, if I need something really important for my work, is I ask for it. That's been everything from, that original tablet screen laptop that I was using, many times, to a hard drive that I can save a lot of, major files on, to a digital camera that I could take pictures, which is what I used to take the backgrounds for my balancing act thesis film, which was very important. The microphone, the Samson C01U microphone, I think was one of the ones I got in high school that I needed. I think that was like just before I finished up. And so stuff like that. If you can, if you really need something and you're sure of it and you know what it is that you got to get, if a Christmas or a birthday is coming up soon and, a family member or a friend or whoever, is willing to get that for you, then I would definitely utilize that and be like, hey, like I really need this for my work. And then in which case, then also I think often people are more inclined, as opposed to, can I get a PS4 or whatever, so, I mean, again, obviously they're still expensive, but the fact that like, oh, this is going towards your work, well, then obviously that's more important. So therefore, yes, this is a gift worth giving. So yeah, that's definitely helped me. That said, again, I shelled out those $2,000 for, the Cintiq and the computer that Tomer helped me build. But overall, yeah, that was kind of my whole plan with that. I think that's about all I have to say. I think my last kind of point about this is, there's a matter of like, I guess sort of like expensive versus usefulness in a way where it's like, what you need is important, and obviously if you can afford it, that's also important. But that's what I'm saying is like you shouldn't shell hundreds and thousands of dollars out of your pocket to buy a bunch of shit that you don't necessarily need. So like, okay, I'll say like in my particular case, I do voiceover, but I'm primarily an animation and art guy. So hence why I've spent an okay amount of money on stuff necessary for recording, both in programs and in equipment. But more of what I've sunk my funds into in terms of my own, setup is the art side of things. The Cintiq, the computer that's strong enough to run programs like the ones that I need, like Flash and Photoshop, etc. Things like that. That's what you got to. So you have to play it smart. You have to kind of even think strategically. Think like you're playing an RPG and managing the shit that you have to carry in a way. Which it's true. It's true, and you don't want to be wasting money on stuff that is not going to be useful to you. Again, if you realize, I'm not actually using this. And again, even case in point, like I still have it. Granted, the new microphone that I got given to me as a gift for Christmas because I could use a new one. That's important. But it's not been so important that I've been rushing out of my house to get a fucking preamp that I need, and I should totally do that so you can have slightly better audio quality on Kirblogs from now on. Sorry. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap this one up. So thank you for listening. I hope that this was helpful. And if you have any further questions about this, leave a comment about that. Maybe if I have any other kind of further suggestions about this, maybe I'll respond to some of those comments and help out in any other way that I can. But otherwise, if you have future Kirblog topics, leave a comment about that. Or hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you feel like. And I think I'll probably be doing the technical mishaps Kirblog next. And then I think I might be having 2 special first-time guests on a Kirblog for next week. We'll see about whenever I get around to recording that. But stay tuned and keep an eye on my Twitter in case I tweet the details for that or whatever. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you all later. Have a great one. Bye.